For the fathers, how do you show up?
But not only is there no manual to parenting, a lot of us don't have a blueprint.
We grow a parent, it takes a village to raise a child. But once you are finally out of that child phase, you need your own village.
Do you have the safe space?
Yeah, I feel like over time it took a lot of work and effort to learn how to cultivate like safe spaces. I can create my own anxiety from just overthinking, and it helped me rationalize a little bit better in my own mind. Like, hey, don't sweat the small stuff.
But fellowship is like that deep, intimate conversation. It's communication, and outside of the communication, it's embracing.
I need some friends or some family to tell me, hey, listen, you're going to get through this. You're going to get through this hurt, this pain, this void, because even though the same time heals all wounds, it doesn't heal this wound.
If you're asking that question, then that means you're right there on the precipice, right there on the edge of wanting to go over into a new version of yourself.
So yeah, being present is another expectation that, men have to carry and uphold to. But
just to add something real quick, my dad passed on the 18th. Every day after that felt like the 19th for like the next 3 months, right? It always felt like the day after.
I think this is majority of the brothers that are out there. Our weakness is our pride. And that's what gets us into trouble. That's what
I just couldn't do it. I just kept trying. And when you say that, it's because I got down on my knees that day. And I cried to the Lord. That was nobody but God, because there was nobody else there for me. That's how I know that sometimes we think that God's not there, and He's always there.
We are like nurturers.
Yes.
But sometimes that nurturing doesn't extend to self. Just remember, anything you do in access usually becomes toxic. You can take your authority back. You are no longer the victim. You are a survivor. You do have a voice. Let's figure out what that voice is, and let's figure out what that voice wants to say. If you have experienced trauma and neglect and misuse, abuse, I want you to know that there is something on the other side of that. Well, hello world. I hope you guys enjoyed the intro video. Welcome back to episode 2 of Join the Fight series. As you can see, I'm not by myself. As promised, I'm bringing on some people. I am so excited to have this conversation. I've been checking in with this man over here. I'm like, hey, you ready? Are you ready? And he a preacher. So even though he says he's not ready, preachers know how to be ready, like on the spot. You hear me? Because trust me, when I say I'm not ready, the Lord always do it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give basic information that I know. And if I miss anything, I'm sure he will fill in the gaps. So this man, I don't know if he's to the left or right of me from what you're seeing, but I have known him for, a year and some change at this point. Like I said, he's a preacher. He is a teacher. He makes cookies, bakes cookies, makes tea, and a whole different varieties of that. He left me in New England, and he done moved himself to North Carolina. But it's okay, because you know what? He's going to be great. And I forgive him for that. So, ladies, gents, I present to you Mr. Charles Simmons. Round of applause.
Glad to be here. The only thing I would like to add to that is I'm saved and sanctified. Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized. Yeah. All right, I'm done.
Okay. Foolish. Anyway,
Just a little bit.
I have been listening to this man's testimony for the past few months, and I was like, okay, so we're gonna have to get you on on one of the lives, because there is a conversation that needs to happen about mental health and the church, therapy and Jesus. We can do both. And I feel like there's just some aspects of I may not know the whole story, but from what I know, there's aspects about his story that definitely need to be talked about. because it is either ignored or woo, thought I had to sneeze. Anyway, something about his story isn't talked about. And so I was like, well, this year I'm on a mission to disrupt systems, because if we don't disrupt the system, things are just going to continue and we have to put a stop to it. So I definitely thank you for joining in. The title of this episode is Battlefield of the Mind. Joyce Meyer came out with that book, and I said, you know what? We have to do this. And Charles is able to provide a lot of insight on his story and everything that that looks like. So, Charles, where do you want to start? Do you want to give some background information on who you are, or just want to like dive into the conversation?
Let's just dive in. Because I really don't know exactly what needs to be shared. So, let's just dive on in and see what happens from there. Have some fun.
All right, cool. So I know that there's parts of your story that are just like the typical, I'm a preacher's kid and I just grew up in the church, loving God, and you know, became a preacher, teacher, or whatever the story was. Can you give us some background information on that? Because I believe there's pieces of your story that can be applicable to the battlefield that we're going to talk about later.
So first and foremost, grew up in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely was not a preacher's kid.
Oh,
Shortly after I was born, to my understanding, my mom honestly stopped going to church for quite some time. So for me, how I really got into the church and how I became the person I am today in regards to my relationship with God was more so growing up and going to church with my grandmother and her friends. When I was little, people used to literally look at me as my grandmother's shadow. Anywhere she went church wise, I was sitting right there, ready to go with her, ready to hop on. You know, if she was going to church, I wanted to go. Like it was so bad. Like if I ever, wasn't misbehaving or did something my mama didn't like or didn't clean my room quick enough or whatever the case may be, like my punishment, not my brother, not either one of my brothers, just me. My punishment was I couldn't go to church, I couldn't sing in the choir. Like that's how much I come to the place to where I love being in the house of the Lord and being in a place to where I really just love serving in his house. Being with my grandmother, being with her friends, really just meant the world to me. And that's one of the things I really just loved. I grew up in the church. I've been saved since I was 8 years old. I got turned 8 back in 1997. No, I turned 8 in 96. I got saved in 97. I never forget, it was Good Friday, 1997. Had ourselves a good time. It was Friday night revival. And that's when I gave my life to the Lord. And growing up in the church was very, very interesting, to say the least. There's a lot of amazing things. And then, of course, with almost any institution, you had your fair share of issues, isms, and schisms. But at the same time, I would not change my experience for anything, because at the end of the day, it definitely made me who I am. And I'm thankful for where I am in my journey.
Well, amen. See, you already sound like a preacher, y'all. So, given how much you love the Lord and you've been saved since a wee little tot, what was your first encounter with the concept of mental health, and how has that impacted your walk, your life?
All right. I've been promising the saints and my friends that it would get real tonight. So if you're gonna be real, let's be real.
Let's.
A good portion of it started a little over 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, around 10 years ago, I'll say it that way. I was always the type of person to where I've always been told, just pray about it, do things that make you happy. And when you're feeling a little down, there's nothing but a trick of the enemy, rada. And it got to the place to where I'm not even going to say specifically the devil, just life started life in real life heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up in a place to where being very transparent, I ended up going through a very interesting breakup relationally, romantically. Followed that by a lot of challenges within the church, a lot of challenges concerning my career. I ended up getting laid off from a job that I was honestly at that time was the most money I've ever made it at one time in my life. At that particular point in time, while also having to deal with the loss of my one of my grandmothers, my what people would consider my stepfather. I always call him my father. Um, but his mom passed away, and for a long time she was the only grandmother I knew outside of my mom's mom. Um, so it really was like just a lot of heavy blows back to back to back to back to back, and I'm sitting there preaching, teaching, and at the time I was on my way to becoming an assistant pastor for another ministry. And the issue just became to the fact that I began to just kind of randomly have panic attacks, and could not recognize where it was. Simply because at the end of the day, it was not necessarily spoken about, or we didn't really talk about it as much, especially at that particular time. Trying to combine um, church with any form of therapy, anything outside of just Jesus, prayer, and talking to your pastor or leader was almost, for lack of better terms, considered taboo. And it got to the point to where um, I was at work, out of nowhere, I would burst into tears and could not stop. I would be, I would preach to others. God would move. I mean, we would have good old fashioned church. Deliverance would take place. And in those moments, it would be the highest of highs. And I loved it. It was amazing. And I'd be preaching encouragement and life to everybody else. But then turn right back around and we'd find ourselves in a place, in a position to where the moment I got in my car, or the moment I got to my office, or the moment I pulled into my driveway, the low would hit and I could not shake it. And sometimes I would literally just sit there for God knows how long and just get it out and go home, close the door, sit in the dark until I asked the Lord to help me go to sleep, and He would allow in time do so. Um, and it was shortly after that where I literally said, Lord, I genuinely to God and I prayed, I was like, Lord, listen, if you don't do something, I don't know how much more of this I genuinely can take, because trying to live life in this capacity with this kind of stuff is a lot. And it was shortly after that I talked to the right friend, and they were just like, Charles, go see a therapist. It's okay to go ahead and talk to a therapist. It's good to call your pastor. It's good to call this person and your friends, rada, but go see a therapist. And it finally got to the place to where, after me going back and forth in my own mind about it, battling the taboo of actually going to see a therapist, especially as a preacher, as a teacher, and even more so just as a man, never mind a black man on top of all that. I finally got to the place where I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go. And I struggled for a long time trying to even just find one that I really liked, that I really enjoyed. But once I found one, it was exactly what I asked God for. I asked the Lord for someone who not only understood the clinical side, but also had some religious background. So my counselor for a number of years was an older retired pastor. And so he really genuinely understood both sides. And I'm so very thankful for that.
That's amazing. There's so much that you highlighted that I definitely wanted to talk about. I think what you're touching upon, there's two sides to it, right? Like when we are teachers, preachers, evangelists, people who pour, right? If we're not careful, we're pouring from an empty place. And I'm not saying that God can't, use us as the vessels to minister to other people. But it's an interesting dichotomy when it's like, I'm over here speaking life and I don't feel life. Like I'm trying to motivate people to movement, into love and excitement, and I don't feel either of those things.
Right.
And so, I want to, kind of park there and dig into what that felt like. Like, how do you, and I definitely talked about this yesterday in the episode I did, but how do you pour life when you don't feel life? Where does that motivation come from? Where does that help come from? And like, how did you step out of that where you finally was like, I can both pour and feel life at the same time?
So before I answer that question, I want to pause And I'm going to ask those of you who are viewing to do me a favor, write something in the comment section, hit the share button really quickly. This is too good of a conversation already, and Jermaine's doing an amazing job moderating, and I'm doing a lot of sharing tonight. So do me a favor, hit that share button real fast, real quick. Tag about 3 people of your friends list that you know need this type of conversation. You ain't got to put them on blast and say, hey, this is why you need it. Just tag their name in the comment section, say, hey, get in here. All right, hit that share button real quick. Let me know in the comment section that you hit the share button. All right, I promise I'm gonna answer your question. I really do, but I need about three or 5 of y'all to hit that good old share button right here, right now. I've already shared. I've already tagged my peoples, so they should be coming in any moment now. But I need the rest of y'all to do so. All right, and the sooner y'all do so, I promise, the sooner I'll answer the rest of these questions. In the meantime, thank you. You see, look at the Lord. Just a few more. Hit that share button. Come on here. Listen, I feel like I'm taking up the offering at church. Come on, will there be enough? But no. So when it comes down to your question, I ain't gonna hold you. That is a very interesting question on so many levels. The first part of it really just dealing with how to get to a point where you are, what's the word? Where you're over here preaching life to others and having a hard time having that exact same experience for yourself. One of the things that I've learned to do, and I will not say it is the most healthiest way, but it is what I've had to do sometimes in the past, and even as a senior pastor over the last few years, there have been times where I've had to do the exact same. All right, listen, Brother Darren, thank you. Sister Hall, thank you. I see y'all coming in. Keep hitting that share button. That's what we're here for. What I've had to do is learn how to compartmentalize what I'm going through versus the job I'm called to do.
Yeah.
Dominique, thank you so much for sharing. Listen, keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. It's been a very interesting situation where I had to learn how to separate what it is I'm going through from what it is I'm called to do, and learn that at the end of the day, if I believe God enough is God to call me to the job, that He'll give me the job, He'll give me what I need in order to really fortify myself, to bring myself to give the people what it is they need. And at the end of the day, it's not mine at all, from like point blank period. I might be struggling, I might be going through, I might be dealing with some stuff, I might be whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's not my job, it's not any of that particular, it has nothing to do with me, except for the fact that I have to realize I'm really just a vessel. The season pastor used to say, I'm just a mailman standing in the mailman's shoes. That's all they do. And me, that's what I had to learn first and foremost, to get to the place to where I call myself preaching and teaching and encouraging and trying to help spread life and encouragement to everyone else from a place of, this is what God says, this is what God's words say. And even though I'm in a storm, I have to understand that it's not about just me, but at the end of the day, I have to do what God is calling me to do. And if I really believe He called me to do it, He'll equip me for the task. And it gets to the point to where I've learned that there are moments and times where I will be standing in front of the saints, preaching to them, but at the same time, almost preaching to myself. And a lot of times people think that, how could I best say it? A lot of times I notice it most, especially when trials are really heavy and it really gets really hard and I'm really just going through it. I recognize that there's a certain way that I take off my glasses, put them on the podium or put them wherever, and I close my eyes. And as I'm preaching, it's like literally, y'all are getting blessed, y'all are getting edified. The Lord is doing what He wants to do through y'all, but He's talking to me first. And it's just like, you know what, Lord, thank you for this. And especially if it's recorded, I'm able to sometimes go back and re-listen to what it is that was said and just say, Lord, thank you, because that was surely for me. As much as it blessed everybody else, I can honestly say thank God for it also blessing me as well. And there are definitely moments where I've gotten to the place, even more so now, as I begin to continue to grow and mature, that I've learned to be able to literally preach myself through storms and preach myself through situations. Like there are just some times where I have to literally just take a moment and do as David said and encourage himself. Go ahead and write my own self a message and deliver it to the mirror and talk to myself and bring myself to a point to where I'm like, you know what, listen, this is the word of the Lord for you in this season. This is the word for you in this particular moment, and really just preach literally to myself. And that's honestly one of the things I've kind of helped to put in place to kind of help just me get through a lot of what I'm dealing with. In addition to going to my doctor, in addition to seeing my therapist, in addition to making sure I put in place my accountability friends, in addition to making sure that I do what's necessary to keep me in a good headspace, prioritizing time away from the church to really just vacation or take some time to really just kind of rest and relax, or just whatever the case may be. Those types of things are really, really big and really important to me. And if I'd be very honest, I got clinically diagnosed with depression that gets really, really serious for whatever reasons during the springtime. Most people get affected real bad during the winter, but for whatever reason, for me, mine is late winter, early spring is when it hits the most. So honestly, I stay on medication year round. And what I found is that it helps me. Medication is not necessarily for everybody, because everybody has their own way of dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with. But I recognize that for me, I go to the mediator and my medicine, and I make sure I do what I got to do to, stay above ground, for lack of better terms.
Yeah, I love that. I, of course, appreciate your willingness to share. And there's a lot of things that I feel isn't understood enough, that you can have a spiritual foundation and it can be solid and strong, but that doesn't mean that life won't happen to you. Like if Satan's going to tempt Jesus himself, of course we're going to be tempted, we're going to be tried, and some of us don't do as well as we wanted to. And it's really difficult to understand that I'm very spiritual, but I am also human. And as a human, I'm going to feel, I'm going to struggle, I'm going to go through some things. For those who, hey, Aunt Glow, for those who are or did see the beginning of the clip in the intro video, I did a series called Black Man Heal. And I honestly feel like Black men specifically are not allowed to emote and have a weakness, if you will, and struggle and stuff like that. And I really wanted to make sure that I brought men on, especially men of color. I wanted to make sure that I brought them on so they can share and have that safe space to say, like, hey, yeah, I can make money and yeah, I have a good head on my shoulders, but listen here, life hurts and it hurts us as well. Like, I know a lot of people cater to the female, right? It's like, I know women have struggles, women have pains, and let's talk about it. But I also wanted to make sure that I highlighted that men feel the same way. So as a Black man in America, and having the strong foundation, spiritual foundation that you have, and also as you were just sharing, like being able to pull on the strength of God to make it through these times. What is your experience as a man? Do you have a safe space? Did you have to find a safe space? Did you have to create a safe space? And how have friends, family been able to help you cultivate that?
Ooh, that's a hard question there. Good God almighty, no. You come out with the big dogs tonight. I don't know how I feel about it. You know what? All right, it's fine. It's fine. But you know what? I will say it like this: if a few more of y'all should hit that share button, I promise I'll answer this question real good. I'll tell myself, yes, I will. I just need a few more of y'all to hit that share button real quick. Let me know. And talk to me in these comments section. I see a couple of words coming in. Talk to me good. I got the comment section open now so I can see everything y'all say. All right. Here's the thing. And I gotta take my glasses off for this one. So I never really had knowledge of how important a safe space was or a soft place to land was until one day I was sitting down and I was listening to evangelist Jennifer Trotter doing a similar type series. And she brought on now Pastor Mark Moore. And the question was something to the effect of, what is something that you look for in a woman? And what is something that most men want in a woman? And the question, his answer was so simple, yet so profound. All I could do was sit back and put my hand on my head and just be like, wow. He gave language that a lot of men don't have. And it's simply just a soft place to land. The issue with a lot of individuals right now is that we'll get to the place to where the individuals will call themselves being a soft place to land and being a place that they are, a safe space. But the moment you get them upset, the moment you hit the wrong chord, or the moment whatever, a lot of what you share to them in your place of vulnerability becomes weaponized against you. And that's a real thing. And a lot of times it's from a place of, you're a man, you should be able to take it. You're a man, you should be able to do this, that, and the third. And it's like, at what point do we genuinely have a safe space that we can genuinely call safe? Without fear or worry that in the moment of whatever, it's going to be, weaponized against us. That's because it's happened to me on quite a few different occasions. I'm very, very cautious about when people share certain things with me, making sure that I don't turn it against them in times of hurt or times of being upset. I'm very mindful of minding my words, because I know how that feels. A lot of times, and being very honest and very transparent, it's in a position to where me being both a male, being a pastor, being a preacher, it is so challenging finding somewhere to genuinely be safe, finding somewhere to genuinely be okay. And I'm gonna tell you the honest to God truth. I'm gonna get to these comments in a minute, but I can't read them and talk at the same time. Pray my screen. But I'm gonna tell you the honest to God truth. There's a certain song that every year I asked my praise team to sing for my anniversary, and the song was it's called Safety. I can't remember who it's by, but the words of the song was simply, safety in the Lord. I am safe. And that's really the bulk of the song. It's so many turns and twists, and musicality is just absolutely amazing. But just really having that knowledge to sing that song and have it sung the way that it is, literally every year will bring me to tears and let me know that in spite of how unsafe I felt as a leader, as unsafe as I felt as a preacher, as unsafe I felt as a man, as a black man, whether single or romantically involved, that at the end of the day, I'm safe in God. And I know a lot of times, we want to be safe everywhere else. And of course, I do desire companionship. I do desire the opportunity to be safe, with the actual person and things of that nature, and that be my person for life. But I also recognize that at the end of the day, there are just some times where, just because of the way that life hits you and the way that life does things, your safety literally can be primarily found in God. And I can honestly say that for me, it took me a little while to get to that point to really be okay with that. Because like I said before, sometimes, what you share in a moment of vulnerability and in your weakness can be weaponized and literally used against you. And I'm gonna start a little trouble tonight. I'm feeling a little froggish. I'm going to leave. It is amazing to me how many people, and I'm not going to say this just from I'm going to speak from a man's perspective. I'll do that. Since you asked me to answer as a man, I'll speak from a man's perspective. It is amazing to me how many women want men How many women want men
Mm-hmm.
and claim that they are a safe space, but literally are just as equally toxic as much as they say they are safe?
Talk, sir. That's it. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy how when all is said and done, after we then got beat up by the cares of the world and beat up by the church and beat up everywhere else, you know, the consensus for a lot of individuals, and I'm not saying every woman, so please don't kill me too hard in the comments. I don't want too much smoke. I'll take a little bit, not a lot, just enough to turn my regular turkey necks into smoked turkey necks, but that's about it. But when all said and done, um, but my issue, my issue generally just becomes that, it just really does amaze me how often, you know, we come and we try to be soft and we try to have that moment and we try to, release some of the tension and some of the pressure, and it literally gets turned around as to literally become volatile for us. And then it's also wondered why we don't talk, wonder why we don't share.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we'll get to the place to where we do share, we do open up, and this particular culture now has terms concerning men who have those type of things called us simps, sassy, soft, or you're too soft, or you're not masculine enough, da 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 da. It got to the point to where there was a time a couple of years back, we had Men's Month at my church, where everything was, surrounding just, the month, for men during the month of June at the time. And I preached a message. And when God gave me the message, I didn't understand why I had to speak it so plainly. The subject of, that's a good question, Chris. I ain't gonna even hold you. Don't even get me started. Please don't get me started. I don't want
We're
that.
going to address this because it needs to be said. But proceed.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Father God.
You had a men's month and
Lord
at
Jesus. So
church.
I appreciate you. We had a men's month, and one of the messages I ended up preaching was that of men have feelings too.
Absolutely.
And that was as simplistic as it was. That was genuinely the entire. That was literally the message in and of itself. That was just really going through scripturally from Jesus on down. How we all, especially as men, that we have emotions. We may not be necessarily as, what's the word? We may not be quote unquote wired to be as emotional as women are wired to be for the most part. But when all is said and done, we do have emotions, and when all is said and done, like, that has to be recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever want to get to the place to where you can build a non-toxic relationship, you have to provide a space to where, the men in your life, or for men, even the women in your life, have the option to be soft, have the option to be vulnerable. Can I tell you right now, if I be very honest, as much as I'm a preacher, pastor, I know I didn't answer your question 5 minutes ago, but you got me started. As much as I'm a preacher and I'm a pastor and teacher and all that wonderful stuff, what most people don't realize is I am horribly introverted. When all said and done, I go through my days and my moments and sometimes hours where I genuinely don't have the social battery to be on. I don't have it. And there are people I will push through to try to have it, to have conversation. But when all said and done, there are just moments where I'm just, when I'm off, hey, I'm off. And it's the same way when it comes down to other stuff. When you want to call yourself, putting yourself in a place and in a position to where you are doing the best you can to always be on. And sometimes your on may be being social. Sometimes your on may be just being talkative. But there are times when you're on means you're always trying to be tough and you're always trying to be rough and soft and the protector and things of that nature. Every lion, as much as he is a lion, every lion goes back to his wife and the lioness, and every now and then takes a moment to take a nap. just lays down. I
Yeah.
love the Lion King. Mufasa went back to his wife every now and then and just chilled out. They had the opportunity to just rest, and that's all he needed to do.
Mhm.
And when all's said and done, like, it's very important to have that kind of dynamic from time to time, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of times as men, we don't have it. I'm loving y'all in this comment section. Keep this comment section lit. I'm gonna put my glasses on and read y'all comments in a minute, I promise. But this is good to me, and I'm gonna stop right there because I feel a good preach coming on. But go ahead, amen.
Listen, this is what needs to be talked about. Like, I work with a lot of people who say, when I get my man or when I get my lady, I'm gonna be complete. It's like, you should be complete within yourself, and they're just adding to what you have built for yourself. Like, yes, we bring value, we bring honor, we bring beauty, love, life to a relationship, but it's like, you can't be 50% of a person, find a 50% of a person, and then be like, that makes 100. Because if he falls off and can't show up in that 50%, you're only left with another 50%.
Exactly.
So now you are expecting the couple to work off of a 50%. And this is why relationships don't last as long. Unfortunately, this is why 50% of marriages end up in divorce, because it's like, people are not healed when they enter into a union. They are not healed when they say, like, I'm going to bring someone into my life. Like, as a single person myself, I'm like, I can't bring nobody in here if I don't know what this is, right? And like you were saying, like, women, we have to be a soft space, a safe space, create a brave space even, to allow our men to be. And that term soft, I feel a ways about it, because I don't think being vulnerable equates soft. I think transparency is strength. I think vulnerability is strength. It takes a strong person to say, I don't have it today. It takes a strong person to be like, listen here, babe, life outside of these walls is attacking me. If I come home, I want to be home in a safe space, not, well, I'm going to attack you too. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, where is that safe space to lay your head? Where is that comforting, warming, embracing, supportive place? Like, if it doesn't exist outside of these walls, it should exist in the home. And I feel like a lot of people in the comment section were first of all applauding you for saying these kind of things, but it's really hard to be broken and create those safe spaces, whether it's male or female. You know what I mean? Like, me being a female or woman, I completely understand that my emotions can make someone feel unsafe. I'm widely aware of that. And so it's not up to anybody to control that, but myself. You know what I mean? And if I can't manage this, how am I supposed to help another person? Like, I can't do that. As preachers, as teachers, as givers, as healers, we have to check in with self first.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to project any of my broken pieces and places on another person. I want to make sure I'm whole within self. And the reality is unfortunately, in the state that America is in, both male and female are not safe. Both people of color, male and female, are not safe. And if we can't be safe out there, if society doesn't create that culture where we can be safe out there has to be a safe space somewhere. And this is a part of what my mission is in life, is to make sure that there are as many safe spaces as possible, because it has to happen. We have been impacted by way too much to not have a safe space within each other, right? But that doesn't happen, unfortunately, because we're not healed, guys, and we just let trauma continue, and the cycles just be cycling out here. That's not English, but you know what?
Not for nothing. It is genuinely the truth. A lot of times, what we try to do, and I'll be again, I promise it'll be real. So let's be real. Some of the issues that I ran into in the past was trying to move into spaces that only healed people thrive as a broken person.
Yep.
I needed that to sink in for a second. That pause was intentional because a lot of times, and again, I'm horribly guilty of it, trying to walk into a space that is literally for healed people only. And too often we find ourselves being broken, trying to fake the funk and get to the place to where we are doing the best we can just to kind of show up and be there and be available, and don't even recognize the simple fact that we are drowning horribly because we are in a place to where we are genuinely not healed. We are not whole. Mm-hmm. When we get to the conversation of 50-50, I'm half of a person, my partner is my other half. That's a very dangerous place to be in.
Yeah.
Because it puts you in a position to where you're saying you're taking God's math and trying to apply a man's math to it.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't even mean to go this far, but since we're here, let's go. The Bible talks about how the two become one.
Yeah.
In order for there to be two to become one, you must be one yourself.
There it is.
And it took a little while for me to really understand that. But when all is said and done, it makes full-blown sense.
Mm-hmm.
When all is said and done, if you are not healed, if you have not gotten yourself to the place to where you said, you know what, I'm a little crazy. I need help in this area. I have issues in this place. I have issues. Let me tell you something. Well, I don't care. We're going to get in trouble. The issue with a lot of folk right now is the simple fact that the truth of the matter is we genuinely do not have what I like to call accountability.
Yeah.
We lack sincere accountability, especially in the church. And we will quickly say that when all is said and done, we're blaming things on God, we'll blame things on this person, we'll blame things on the devil. But at what point are we going to stop and say, you know what, this is my stuff, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I've gone through, and I cannot expect someone to tolerate me where I am and expect for them to have to come in and for them to be my savior when God has put inside of me and also put around me the tools in which I need in order to become what I need to become and deal with all of these other different issues. It's really just crazy how often we will use God as our scapegoat, and we don't even realize that we're over here turning him into our scapegoat when with all is said and done, at the end of the day, this ain't got nothing to do with God. This ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. But at the end of the day, a choice you made to do X, Y, and Z, and here is the repercussion. And as hard as a conversation that is right there, I'm gonna tell you the truth. It's real. Like I could tell you right now, had I not come to the realization to know that I was battling depression and I was having crazy panic attacks and I was dealing with a whole bunch of foolery, and made the decision to really look beyond what the taboo says concerning therapy and decide to seek a therapist on my own and turn myself into a place to where I was able to talk to my therapist, talk to my PCP, get on depression medication to help become a better me, to help me become that much more better for the people I talk to and the people I serve, then at the end of the day, I would not be who I am today. I would not be able to get up here and talk to you like this. There are some things I'm dealing with, good God Almighty, behind the scenes right now that you be told. There are times where I want to go in the corner and just cry and just sit down and just mind my little business and beat myself up, have my little pity party. But at the end of the day, between God, therapy, and everything else that I put in place, it consistently gives me the drive to keep moving and keep going. And I have to find that from within before I find it from without. And for me, that means I have to take a moment of sincere accountability for my actions, for where I am, to be able to move forward and do what's necessary. And I ain't gonna lie to you. Before I'm gonna give you back the platform in a second to ask your next question and move forward. But I believe we talking a lot better than some of y'all talking in the good old comment section. I don't see that many likes. I don't see that many hearts. The comments is really slow and really kind of really dried up and whatnot. But when all said and done, I need y'all to come on, hit that share button one more time, hit them likes, hit them comment section. Let me know if you agree with me, talk to me. If you don't agree with me, say something. If you got questions, ask questions. Let's have some fun tonight. Come on, talk to me. I'm done, though. I'm a hush.
I mean, preachers, y'all, they need They need y'all to talk back to them. Any good preacher does. Yeah, accountability is so huge. I do call it a privilege and a distinct honor to have some very close male friends. One of my best friends is male, as most of you know. You will see him next week. Plug. Anyway, something that he's always, or my male friends are always sharing with me is exactly that. Be accountable. My God, does Darren preach accountability like it's nobody's business? But I'm moving on. It's absolutely necessary for you to look at yourself, like Michael Jackson said, like the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, and be like, I might be the cause of a lot of my disruption. I may be the reason why my life is looking the way it's looking. Maybe I lack discipline. Maybe I lack understanding. Maybe I'm just not healed from what happened in the past. And it's like, if we can work on that, if we can have some introspection and do some intrapersonal communication, which is basically like having a conversation with self. Like if we don't have and ask ourselves these hard questions, we're just going to continue in doing exactly what we've been doing and feeling insane, because we know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting something different. And it's like, that's not how that works. Like therapy is not just about, oh, let me talk about my problems because I have them. Therapy is literally like, if you don't have the skills to unlearn whatever life was so that you can learn something different, you develop those skill sets. If you don't have the ability to look inward because whatever defense mechanisms you have built over the years, we teach you how to get in there and be like, hey, something's in here, right? When we talk about companionship, if you want to allow someone into your heart and into your mind, that means they're going to occupy spaces that you have not discovered within yourself. And when they get too close, you're going to push them away because you're like, I don't know what's behind that door.
Mm-hmm.
You creeping too close, and no. And so it's like you alluded to this, like we desire something, but we do not have the skill sets, or we have not prepared ourselves for what that thing is that we are asking. Pastor Mike Todd said, if God gave you everything that you wanted in this moment, would you be able to handle it? And that's a hard question to ask, because most of us are like, yeah. Listen, God, you know what I wanted. I've been asking this for years. And if he gave it to you, would you be wasteful like that prodigal son, where he got it way too soon and he wasn't ready, and in his immature state, wasted? It's like, would we be wasteful if God gave? Or would we be a good steward over it and be like, you know what? Actually, I am prepared. I do have the skill sets.
So it's funny that you bring that up, because for me, and I'm getting a lot of trouble right here. Good God Almighty. It is what it is. I hope y'all ready for this. If y'all ready, let me know you're ready in the comment section real quick. Just type in the word ready, because it's about to get real bad real quick. I'm about to tell myself, good God Almighty knows. Ain't nobody ready? All right, listen, I'll keep it to myself. But if you're ready, just type ready real quick. Here's the deal, right? Here's the deal.
There you go, we got two.
All right.
Yay.
I just had to make sure. So here's the deal. I got to the place in my life where I recognized that some of my own battlefield, it's brother Dave for me. Come on, Dave. I'm here for it.
That's my best friend, y'all. Y'all don't mind him. Go ahead.
I'm here for it. Here's the issue with me. I recognize wholeheartedly that there are some, how does somebody say, what needless pain we bear? Mm-hmm. Some wounds for me were self-inflicted.
Yep.
That's a good Selah moment. Mm-hmm. Pause and think. Some wounds for me were very much so self-inflicted, because I literally wanted what I genuinely could not handle.
That's it.
And once I got to the place where I recognized the hard truth that when all was said and done, I had to really take a step back and say, hey, I'm genuinely not ready for what it is I'm truly asking for. It was in that moment that I felt for lack of better terms, some form of relief. If you've ever been in that kind of place in the comment section, let me know that you've been there. Let me know you resonate. Let me know that this is helping you, blessing you, something. Talk to me real good. Talk to me nice, but talk to me good. And the issue for me really just became that, like, there were certain things I genuinely wanted, certain things I was looking forward to, certain things I was consistently asking God for. But if He would have given it to me in the time in which I wanted it, I would have either destroyed it or it would have destroyed me. Real bad.
Yeah.
Like, case in point, if I be very honest, one of the things I'm looking forward to soon and very soon, with the help of the Lord, is getting married. I look forward to getting to a place to where I can, find a wife and be able to move forward in that capacity and, take care of her, create our little family and all that wonderful stuff. But I also recognize that in order for me to do that, I also personally, this is just me, by my own standards, I want a better job. So my prayer had to literally shift from, Lord, I'm lonely and I want a wife. Lord, I'm lonely and I want a wife, to, Lord, prepare me to be the husband I need to be. Prepare me to be the provider I need to be. So, Lord, I'm not going to just say provide to do this, then the third, and put it all blame on you, but I'm accepting accountability. I'm going to upgrade my resume. I'm going to be applying to jobs left and right. I'm going to do what I need to do. Get on, get off Facebook, get on LinkedIn. Praise the Lord. Stop, dealing with a lot of these, other stuff, and really get where the people I want to be are actually at, and make moves in that particular regard. Like, it makes no sense to consistently put myself in a place to where I'm over here putting myself through unnecessary hurt, harm, and pain and disappointment because I'm asking God for things that I'm not ready for. Now, let me be clear. There are going to be times, if I be honest, good God Almighty knows, there are going to be times where you're asking God for the right things just in the wrong timing. And you have to recognize that His timing, as a friend of mine would say, His timing is His kindness, giving it to you when you need it, when it should be actually coming. The fact for a lot of us is, truth be told, that a lot of what we're praying for, we're not ready for. And we're struggling in our minds because we're not, again, going back to taking accountability, we're not holding ourselves accountable to where we need to be in order to be able to properly receive what we're asking God for. And that right there is what's getting a lot of us in trouble. And I know we veered off very heavy from the actual original topic of conversation, but when all is said and done, like, this is the kind of stuff that needs to be said, and that's kind of something that needs to be talked about within the house of the Lord. We have to get back to a place of accepting accountability and really being able to move forward. And honestly, accepting accountability, hey, let's tie it back in, will help you in the battlefield of your mind. It'll get you to a better place to where you can say, you know what? Okay, I understand why I'm fighting this fight. I want this, but I can't get this by just throwing a tantrum, because that says that I'm immature. That says I'm not where I need to be. And truth be told, the greater my tantrum, the less likely I am to actually be able to honor it, cherish it, take care of it, and be mature enough to handle it when it actually comes. If I really want to have what I'm asking God for, I have to put myself in position to receive it. I was at a church on Sunday, and they gave me the pastor gave me the opportunity to share a few words toward the end of the service, just before I did the altar call. And I shared with the church what the Lord had put on my mind. There's a church that I know about. I'm going to give two little examples of this, and I'm going to get to the point. There's a church that I know about that when you go to this church, the parking lot is so interesting that it's almost like every car takes up literally a space and a half. And it's very interesting how you can be sitting back asking God for growth, asking God for more, asking God to send the souls in, but you don't have a parking space for them for when they come. I went to a church Sunday, went to go and fellowship. I haven't seen them in quite some time. And I already knew, because they don't have a musician, that once I got there, I was going to hop on the organ. I was going to support them. I was going to play, and we were going to have ourselves a good time. I didn't go looking for anything. I just wanted to go and support the service and, be of use and, just be there and join in with them. And when I got there, the bass player had his bass cases sitting on the organ bench, so that when I got there, I could not immediately just get on and just do what I had to do. And when all is said and done, it goes right back to what it is that we said. We're asking God for a musician. We're asking God for this, that, and the third. But yet that space is occupied and we're not really ready for what it is that we're asking God for on a consistent basis. And then we wonder why we're consistently fighting and going through and struggling and crying and all that wonderful stuff. When all what needs to be done is we need to just take that time, take that moment and say, you know what, Lord, this one is on you. And I'm going to do what I need to do so that at the end of the day, I can be as ready as possible so that when you do show up, when you do get here, I'll be in better position to move forward in that regard.
For sure. I mean, it all really does tie in because you or our conversation, it has brought up a lot of things that we can outwardly look like we got it all together. Outwardly, we can show up, we can do our jobs, we can be there for family, we can be there for friends. But internally, when we are left with ourselves, there's a whole battle going on. And that's why mental health is one of those invisible disabilities, as they say, because I can look fine, but I am beating myself up mentally. I am telling myself I'm not good. My circumstances are affirming that, unfortunately, for some people. So then we start to believe like maybe I am just nothing. Maybe I will never amount to anything because this is what my past looked like. And clearly I'm not learning from it because I'm still making mistakes. And there's a reason why we say like talk nice to yourself, because your brain is going to believe your words from your voice before it totally takes root what other people are saying. So the worst thing is for you to be the person who is speaking death over yourself, because you have the ability to speak life. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I too was like, Lord, you got to do something different because this isn't working. And I'm listen, just as clear as day. It's like, if you want something to change, you have to change how you talk.
Yes.
I was like, I'm just gonna forever be single and ain't nobody gonna love me and ain't nobody. And I just kept saying, woe is me. And all of those woes, it's like, well, you spoke it.
Yes.
So now you have to live it because you didn't give yourself the opportunity to have a life because you didn't speak life. And this is the battle that happens, right? Like the if the enemy can have your mind, he can have everything else, because the mind is a control center of the body. And something you said about self-harming or whatever, or words to that effect, like people assume self-harm, you said self-imploding or something like that. Self-inflicting, thank you. There's a thing in, as most people know, about self-harming, right? And people assume self-harming is only when you are inflicting physical pain on yourself. There's a whole different side to this where self-harm is I am sabotaging my good stuff. I'm speaking negatively about self. I am putting myself in harm's way because I don't have the value or the self-worth where I'm saying like, girl or guy, homie, shorty, whatever you want to call yourself.
I really can't.
I deserve better. And when you don't acknowledge and accept and receive the fact that you deserve better, you always settle for less. And that's not just in relationships. That's where you, like jobs. If you don't think that you are capable of doing more, you're going to just aim for right here and be like, no, at this point, I'll take anything. But then when you get anything, something doesn't sit right with you because you're like, this don't feel right. And I feel like I could be doing more. I feel like I have more to give, but it's like, well, if you settled, you settled, you know, and that is self-harming to a greater extent, because the cuts on your arms, they'll scab over and then you're just left with a scar. We are walking scars, emotional scars, mental, and as we were talking about, spiritually scarred individuals. And just because you can't see those scars doesn't mean they don't exist. And the reason for this conversation is to really bring that home. Like, there are people who will keep silent because there isn't a safe space. There are people who will keep silent because they don't have the words to say, I don't know what this is, but something in my life doesn't feel right. Something in my life is broken. Something isn't operating at its maximum capacity, and we need to fix that. And there is no shame, like Charles said, there is no shame in going to therapy. If you don't like therapy, get yourself a life coach. Chris, who was in the comment sections, he's a life coach. Get you someone, a professional, someone who can help guide you through these dark places that we call life sometimes. And this is why we're having this conversation. So we have approached that hour mark. This was a great conversation. If you guys want to see Charles back again, let me know. There's always room for a part 2. But like I like to do at the end of every episode is I want there to be a charge left with the people. Because what is the point of having all of this conversation, saying some really good stuff if we don't encourage someone or the people who are watching either live or on replay, give them a challenge after all that was said and done.
Before I give them a challenge, before I give those who are watching live a challenge, do you mind if I flip things up for a few minutes? Do you have a few extra minutes?
I got all that, but you know, I didn't want to hold the people. But go ahead.
With that being said, let's go ahead. I want to do something a little different because I really want to engage with the audience just a little bit. I'm gonna give about 10 minutes, 10 solid minutes, and if the audience has any questions, I'll do the best that I can to answer questions from the audience within the next 10 minutes. I will set myself up in that capacity. So by all means, if you have any questions, anything you want to quickly hear us talk about, literally for the next 10 minutes, the floor is yours. In Jesus' name.
Should I do that Jeopardy song?
Facts. Absolute facts.
I mean, there's no pressure, y'all. This is, again, he's a preacher, so this is what preachers do. They like feedback. They like to answer the questions, to make sure that all hearts and minds are cleared by the end.
Exactly.
Did you enjoy yourself, sir?
Listen, all I'm gonna say is we here. We are here.
I don't know what that means.
Okay. I really did enjoy myself. I was very much so nervous about it. But when all said and done, I am looking forward to I am looking forward to, doing something like this again. This was definitely great. Let's see here. So yeah, this was definitely great. I can honestly say it's been a long time since I've done any kind of like a panel discussion or anything to deal with, anything outside of just Jesus or preaching, teaching, gospel, things of that nature. So this was really good. If I could say anything to the younger Pastor Simmons, what would I say? Good God Almighty. I think the first thing I would say to him is be confident in who you are, and the right people will be attracted to you. Literally be confident in who you are, and the right people will be attracted to you. For a long time, and I'm trying to make this as short as possible because I promised 10 minutes, I put myself in a position to where I tried my best to fit in and be what everybody else wanted me to be and what everybody else, quote unquote, called me to be. But when all said and done, I got to the place where I said, you know what? I have to that much more be authentically who I am. And the more I found out who I am, the more certain individuals walked away, but also the more the right people came close to me. Yeah. So I would definitely say, starting off, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about what everybody else says is a good and or a bad idea, but literally focus on being who you are as authentically you and make moves from there. So before I get to Sarah's question, my brother actually just texted me a question for you.
For moi?
Yes, for you. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I promise we're going to come right back to Miss Sarah in just a second. By the way, thank you for these questions because I ain't gonna lie, these are good. My brother's question is this on my iPhone. Let me make sure I read it correctly. He says, I just want to know if you're open to the idea of walking scars. Instead of walking scars, does the term modeling clay work better?
Mm. I mean, listen here, y'all. Thank you, brother, for that question. I do believe so, and I say that because something that I am greatly fond of is pottery, and a lot of times we are marred clay. We are struggling. We need to be reshaped and reformed. So I do believe that not everyone has the scars, so to speak. Like some people have actually dealt with thing and the wounds are healed. But I definitely do believe that there are a lot of people who just needed to be reformed and reshaped and refreshed and renewed to be that vessel that God has created us to be. So absolutely, I like that. What did he say? Walking clay. What was it?
Modeling clay.
Modeling clay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because modeling clay. Listen, clay has to withstand some heat. It
Fact.
really does. And if it is not shaped the same, if it's not shaped the right way, the heat can make it burst. And if that one thing in that oven bursts, it'll shatter all of the other pieces inside of it. And that's to say, take care of yourself because we all are assigned territories, and you do not want to be the cause of a lot of people in your territory to be harmed, to be broken because you didn't get yourself together. But we're not going to preach. This isn't my thing. I mean, it is my thing, but like, it is about me. Anyway, go ahead. Sarah's question.
Did you encounter pushback with your family when I told them about being depressed? They don't like to feel like the blame caused or will invalidate your feelings, yada yada yada, especially Black families. So I'll be honest. I won't say that I necessarily got any pushback because one thing about my family, I'm thankful that even though they may not fully understand, they're very loving, very supportive, and they may not. I can honestly say we may not be the quote unquote closest family, but in times where we do need to gather and come together, I'm thankful that we have that strong family unit to say, hey, we are here as a family, we are here as one, we will work this out, we'll work through this. And when I came to my family and actually like talked to them concerning me being in a place of dealing with depression, dealing with mental illness the way that I do, and even taking medicine, there were a few individuals within the family that were a little cautious concerning the medication portion, just because they've seen what certain medications have done to some of their friends and people in the past concerning just making them numb or even altering who they are cognitively in a very serious way, which is definitely something that is to be very, strongly taken into consideration. But I can honestly say thankfully, I did not necessarily get any pushback. They definitely, from where they stand and their level of understanding, encouraged me as best as they could. And I just knew that in areas that they didn't fully understand or couldn't grasp, that at the end of the day, I had to also push a little further to make sure that I got where I needed to go in order to move forward as well. And I'm thankful for that. They definitely were very much so supportive, very much so there trying to find different avenues and ways to kind of help. And if for whatever reason something that they suggested did not help or would not work necessarily for me, I'm thankful that they did not get offended when I said, okay, I can't do that. That would not work for me. That's not how I can approach that. And kind of just went back to the drawing board to kind of figure out how we can better move forward just in general.
Mm-hmm. I like that because there is an episode that I want to do that talks about familial pain and trauma because it's a thing. Like I literally was talking to my client about this last week where we heal, and for some families, we attack the healed one because like, oh, you think you're better than me now? You think like now they're the black sheep of the family, and it's like all because I want to be healed and get better. that makes no sense. Like we get isolated because we're trying to end the cycle, and that makes no sense. So I definitely want to talk about it because a lot of people feel bound and obligated to stick with family, and it's like if sometimes family are the ones that are hurting us the most, and that's like telling someone who's being abused, like, go ahead, go back, it's fine, it's fine. We can forgive their offenses. Like we can forgive their offenses, absolutely, but by no means does that mean I'm going to keep walking into the abuse at all, family or not. It's like I don't have to sit there, and you know, I might have to bring some of my my clinical friends on. Y'all have seen them in the past if you've been with me, if you've been rocking with me for a little bit. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here, whether you're watching this live or on rebroadcast. I hope you really gained something from this conversation. Charles said a lot. He shared a lot. And with that being said, Charles, I definitely appreciate you, first of all, for saying yes and agreeing to show your face and to share your story. This is not a small task. I most definitely do not count it lightly when someone is able to come on here in the social worlds that exist and give a transparent moment and share a piece of their heart, share a piece of the world. So again, thank you kindly, sir. You are truly a blessing to this moment, to these people. And next week, I will have my best friend on. You guys have seen him. You guys know him. I talk about him all the time. He was in the comment section today, Darren Day. So you guys come back. I know his aunties will be here. Maybe his brother will be here. Maybe his mama. His family showed up last week. Love y'all, Day family. They're not days. They're the other side. Anyway, moving on. Love you guys. Thank you for coming. I will see you again next week, 7 p.m. Again, if you want to see Charles, again, let me know. Let him know. Charles, where can people find you? Because you also do tea and cookies and things. Let the people know what you're doing, what you're about.
So, all right, gladly. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate thinking enough of me to allow me to share my story with your platform. It is definitely not something as well that I do take lightly by no means. I'm thankful that this was a safe space and a great opportunity, and that you allowed me to be comfortable enough to be able to share as much as I was able to share tonight. I'm definitely just thankful. I almost wish it was even longer, to where we can kind of just dive into a lot more in general. With that being said, where can you find me? You can find me here on Facebook, Charles Simmons. Here on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, charles.e.simmons. I'm not going to tell y'all what the E stands for, but I'm going to leave that alone in Jesus' name. Hallelujah. You can find me charles.e.simmons on Instagram. You can even find me at Charlie's Cookies and Tea. And if you would like to actually place an order for my teas, I'm not doing cookies in this present moment, but I will be going back to doing cookies soon and very soon. You can actually find me online at charliesct.com. I'm actually going to type it in the comment section just so you can see how it's spelled. charliesct.com. And what I sell there currently are three specific types of teas that I actually came up with the formula for. I actually sell it myself. One of them is a sleepy time tea. If you have issues with falling asleep, issues with even just mellowing yourself out at night, I have a specific tea that helps with that. That will put you in a place to where you can kind of help to get mellowed out. And one of my friends called himself making a huge cup of it one night and fell asleep with it, literally, sitting on his stomach. His wife had to come and move the cup before he burned himself. It was the most hilarious thing in my life when he told me about it the next day. I then also make two specific teas, one that is specifically catered specifically for women, and another one that both men and women take, but it has a lot more benefits for women. One of them I call my Serenity, TEA at the end. Serenity, it is a tea that specifically deals with women in their menstrual cycles. helps to deal with cramps, helps to deal with bloating, helps to deal with just easing the side effects of a lot of different cyclistic symptoms over the course of time. You take it for a couple of days before your cycle is known to come, and then also take it every single day, maybe like once or twice a day, as needed during your cycle period, and then you should be perfectly fine. A lot of people have reported that they did not feel cramps at all. Some people have said that they're gotten to the place where they just felt really good. Energy levels were better, and just an overall better experience. And they've been ordering it consistently since then. And my last tea, which is honestly my personal favorite, is what I like to call Tranquility. It is a tea that actually has a very rare herb in it. And I like to talk about it just because it's that amazing. One of the herbs that has in it is called St. John's Bush. Not St. John's wort, but specifically St. John's Bush. In that particular tea, there's St. John's Bush, St. John's Bush, ashwagandha, and red raspberry leaf. If you deal with low iron and you get cold quick or you're anemic, that's the tea for you. It helps to boost your energy. You're not tired as often. It will not give you the same side effect as you taking an iron pill. You can take that particular tea as often as you would like, once a day, twice a day, a couple of times a day, whatever the case may be, and really just kind of allow you to have yourself a good time and give you a really great day. Just you can find me at charliect.com. You can inbox me, email me if you have any further questions. I am going to be launching an herbal ebook pretty soon, so that you can actually buy an ebook and kind of find out certain things for herbal remedies that you can put together or even just take by itself, to kind of go ahead and start really dealing with certain other things you have going on physically. So be on the lookout for that as well.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you next week. Same time, same channel, same place, 7 p.m. And again, my special guest will be none other than my bestie. That's my best friend. That's ghetto. Anyway, Darren Day will be here, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you next week. You guys have a blessed night.
You as well. Be blessed.